Gunnera or Gunnera has now been banned for sale here in the UK. In this video, I'll explain exactly what I mean by that statement and what the implications are for us growing this plant here in our gardens. So it's quite a big statement, that, a bit shocking to some people, but basically Gunnera or Gunnera, as it's been reportedly called as well, has been banned from the UK in terms of the species. Gunnera tinctoria, which was old news, it's been banned for many years as an invasive species, so tinctoria was never, well, hasn't been allowed to be sold for many years. It came under the European laws, and then Defra in the UK adopted it and said it's an invasive species because in the west coast of Ireland and southwest of Scotland it has become quite invasive in some areas, and tinctoria has been the species that was listed as being the invasive one, not to be sold. But if you've watched my videos earlier in the year about Gunnera and the fact that Gunnera manicata, which is the permissible species to grow and sell in the UK, has actually been found to be a hybrid between Gunnera manicata and Gunnera tinctoria, also known as Gunnera Cryptica. I'll do a link in the corner so you can see more about that quite confusing situation. Then, because everything is basically in the UK sold as Gunnera manicata now, but in fact the hybrid Gunnera Cryptica, which has tinctoria genes in it, basically because it's got tinctoria in it, it's been classified as an invasive species by Defra. So this has come in the news today, so the Guardian picked up this story, and I'll do a link to the Guardian article about this. And you may remember I did a link to the scientific publication, looking at the fact that Gunnera manicata, which was brought over from Brazil over 100 years ago, was actually hybridized, unknown to the general public and to experts, with tinctoria quite early on after their arrival from Brazil. And all the offspring and the plants that we've been sold since then in the UK and quite a lot of Europe will actually be Gunnera Cryptica, which is this hybrid. Because it's been unknown for so long, and it's only been recent papers in terms of looking at the morphology of the plants and also more recently looking at the genetics of the plant, we can actually see it is the hybrid with tinctoria, and tinctoria, as we've already discussed, is a banned species here in the UK and in the EU as well. So because it's got tinctoria in it, it's been classed as invasive, and that means we can't buy this plant anymore or sell this plant. But if you've got it in your garden growing, as long as you don't let it spread out of your garden at the moment, you can currently continue having this plant in your garden, which is a relief for many of us because we love our Gunnera plants with their absolutely huge leaves. It's one of the star plants for many jungle style gardens. People with large ponds have it as a marginal as well, and it can grow to absolutely epic proportions. So this will have a knock-on effect. So if you go to garden centres over the next year or two, you probably will find that Gunnera, it won't be on sale anywhere, because I know we've talked about the fact that Gunnera manicata, as it's sold on the labels in garden centres, was in fact tinctoria. That's a different story. Well, in the future, manicata, because it's Cryptica, won't be able to be sold either. So basically there'll be no Gunnera for sale in garden centres moving forward. When I say you can still keep it in your garden, if you've still got the plant growing in your garden, then you can keep it in your garden. It's like this with many other plants that have become invasive in the past, like the skunk cabbage as well, which is another pond marginal plant, funny enough, which is from North America. This plant became banned a few years ago, but if you already had it in your garden, you could keep it. It's not allowed to let it get into watercourses and spread that way, so you've got to keep it contained in your garden. This does mean you can't sell it or give it away as well. So if you've got a Gunnera in your garden and think about sharing it with friends, unfortunately, if you go by the book and go by the rules, then you can't do that. You can't divide it, propagate it, give it away, let it get it into other people's gardens or into to nature as well, into habitat. So you have to keep it in your garden if you grow it. So why has this come about? Well, like I said, Gunnera tinctoria has been banned for a few years, and it's been because it's invasive. It swamps out natural plants from the region. So in west coast of Scotland, west coast of Ireland, the native flora and fauna is getting more suppressed by the Gunnera leaves and outcompeting native plants. And that is the thought process behind why Gunnera Cryptica, which has much bigger leaves and is just as hardy, will also sort of suppress the native flora in those areas and potentially across the country as well. So that's why it's been banned. This video is not about whether it should or should not have been banned. It's just a news information video, quite a short video, just to say it has been banned. I will do a link to the scientific paper, the more recent scientific paper, the Guardian article as well, so you can read it and see the source of that information, and you can make up your own minds about it. It is slightly, because it's news as I'm filming this video, then there might be a time lag between it going off sale, but basically once it goes on that Defra list, like a lot of other plants that are on that list, you can't propagate or sell it. But it's not the end of the world. If you've got Gunnera already in your garden, you can continue to grow it. You're just not allowed to let it spread out of your garden. So thank you for watching this short video. Hopefully this information is pretty clear and concise, and the links will shed more light on it. If you've got any questions, please put them in the comments below and I'll answer them as best as I can. Like I said, I'm not the expert. I didn't write these papers. I am just sharing this information. But if you've got further information or questions, then please put it in the comments below. Thank you for watching.